Mia. The day she was born was the most beautiful sunny day that I can remember.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm so grateful that you reached out to us and you're here to tell me a story. Just to jump in, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you and your husband located, and what do you do in your spare time for a living? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm married to my husband, Cody. We've been married for 7 years now. Mm-hmm. Been together since I was 18 years old. We live in New Hampshire, so nice freezing cold New Hampshire right now. I'm actually originally from New Jersey. I moved up to New Hampshire when I was 18 and met Cody right away, pretty much. We've been together ever since. And yeah, we just hit it off right away, even though he was wearing a Red Sox jersey and I'm a huge Yankees fan. Oh. So that was almost a deal breaker in the beginning.
Well, it hasn't divided your house. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we just kind of pretty much grew up together, being together since we were 18 and learned a lot about each other. And yeah,
and how long have you guys been married?
7 years. Yeah. This November, we just hit 7 years.
Awesome.
Which is crazy to think about. It's insane how fast time goes.
It does. Yeah. It flies. Well, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, obviously with COVID, it's hard to go out and enjoy doing anything. But before COVID, we loved going to concerts, going to movies. That was our biggest thing. I think we were at the movie theater every Friday.
You guys were movie buffs, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Half of our dialogue is movie quotes throughout the day. So.
That is super fun.
Yeah.
And what do you do for a living?
Yep. So I work at a wire processing company. I do inside sales. When I try to explain what my company does, everyone kind of has this glazed over look on their face, but I keep it simple we do sales for wire processing machines.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll take that. Wonderful. And do you guys have family nearby then? So you are from New Jersey originally. Yes. Where do you guys have family in New Hampshire?
Yeah, so we moved to New Hampshire, my mom, my dad, my little brother, and myself, right after I had graduated high school, mm-hmm. But we still have a ton of family down there. My sister stayed down there because she was in college in New Jersey at the time. So her and her husband are down there. My Nana, tons of aunts and uncles, all my cousins, pretty much everybody.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah. That sounds good.
But up here, she has her parents and then my entire family.
Okay.
Cody's born and bred New Hampshire.
Perfect. Okay. Wonderful. And I just wanted to let everybody know that Cody is actually sitting in on this episode. So he might pipe in every so often, but you can actually listen to his own separate story with Lee in a little bit. So, well, that's great. So there's family around regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, because I really don't think I would have lasted very long up here without any of my family.
Yeah, let's get into that part. I know it's like, okay. So at the time of our recording, how long ago was Mia born?
About 1.5 years ago. She was born July 15th, 2020.
Okay. So that's still pretty new for you guys. Can you tell us about your pregnancy? Was that something you planned? Was that a surprise? How did that look for you guys?
She was very planned, very wanted. It's kind of a long story. I'll try to punctuate it.
No, you're totally fine. Let's get into it because it's fertility. Fertility is also getting pregnant. That's a big deal.
Struggle, for sure. And so Cody and I got married in 2014. Mm-hmm. Leading up to our wedding, even before, when we had first started dating, we always talked about having a big family, having a lot of kids. I'm only one of three, but Cody's one of four. Our parents come from huge families, lots of cousins. So we always knew we wanted a big family. So after we got married, we decided to start trying pretty much within a year. I feel like we decided, to try. And it was tough. I was struggling with some health issues. I have PCOS. I have thyroid disease. So I was struggling with those, not really knowing that was affecting, my inability to get pregnant.
Right.
So fast forward a couple of years, I had been talking with my doctors and, decided to try to do everything I could to help my body prepare for pregnancy. So because of the PCOS and my thyroid disease, it's really difficult for me to lose weight on my own. I had tried, so many diets and workout programs. It's just hard. I mean, for women in general, it's hard to lose weight, but tack on these health issues that I'm truly battling. It was really difficult. So I ended up seeing a dietitian and a workout specialist, and I was put on a weight loss program. And then I ended up getting weight loss surgery after going through about 9 months of preparation and weight loss. So then I underwent weight loss surgery, lost a bunch of weight. My periods started regulating. I was ovulating because prior to that, they were very irregular all over the place. So it was hard to track and, figure out if it was even possible to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And in New Hampshire at the time, actually, I apologize. I'm not sure if it's the same right now, but fertility treatments are not covered or were not covered in New Hampshire when we were trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to avoid that at all costs because it's just
so expensive.
It's astronomical and it's criminal. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
So anyway, so fast forward to me losing weight, my periods were regulating. I was ovulating. Once we got the clear from my doctor, because, after surgery, you have to wait a certain amount of time for your body to heal and make sure it's okay to get pregnant. We decided to try, and we got pregnant the first time we tried.
Really?
Yeah, it was absolutely unbelievable. I remember taking the test and, before I found out I was pregnant, you always have all these grand ideas about how you're going to tell your spouse or your partner or your family that you're pregnant, especially when it's the first time. It's just this, the most magical thing you could think of. And all of those ideas, all those Pinterest ideas that I had saved just went out the window. I was standing in the bathroom looking at the stick for what felt like an eternity. And I just walked out of our bathroom. Cody was still in bed. I was crying. I don't even remember what you said. I think he probably thought somebody died or something because I was just so overtaken with emotion. And I just gave him the stick, and he looked at the stick and looked at me. And I really wish I could remember what he said or what I said, but I don't. It was just such a blur. And I remember overjoyed, just completely out of body experience with just joy and happiness. And just, I was so elated that I was actually pregnant. It was just after seeing so many negative tests, dozens and dozens of negative tests, and just being told it's easy as losing weight and you'll get pregnant, which at the end of the day, I mean, obviously losing weight helped, but there were just so many other factors that went into it, So to get pregnant after all that time was just the most amazing feeling ever. I really can't put it into words how amazing it was to finally be pregnant. And that day we actually went out to breakfast. I don't know if you remember. And I remember just sitting at our breakfast place and I'm just speechless, I just could not believe I was pregnant. And then the weeks after that, I was taking a test every day to make sure I was still pregnant. Yeah. Which, was, I think a lot of first-time moms do that, especially after struggling or even after a loss, you just never know. So went to the doctor, everything looked great. I had a little bit of a hiccup around 10 weeks. I had some issues with my gallbladder, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So to punctuate that story, I ended up needing emergency gallbladder surgery when I was 10 weeks pregnant. So, but even aside from that, I mean, I really had a great pregnancy. I was just so happy. I feel like I looked my best. I felt the best I had ever felt, even though I was gaining weight and I had just lost all this weight, from a couple months before. But I really just felt so amazing. And it was such a happy time in our lives, but not only our lives, but in our families' lives,
Yeah.
because they had known my struggles and they had known how much we wanted children and how hard it was for me to get pregnant. So when we told them we were pregnant, it was just such a happy, happy time. And it's a time that I really do treasure and will remember for years and years to come. And I'm lucky that we recorded a lot of reactions and we had a lot of people's reactions on video. And those are still videos that I have to this day. And I will never not have those. I'll always keep those close to my heart.
Lindsay and Cody, because I know that Cody was the cameraman in some of those, but you had sent some of those over and they were delightful to watch. The reaction on you could hear them I'm not sure whose parents if it was your parents.
Right, yeah.
Oh man, they were just overjoyed.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm very open with my family. I'm very transparent. So they knew we were eventually, around that time we were going to start trying. So if I had called my parents up, they live an hour away, and said, "Hey, can we come over?" They would think, "Oh, is this when they're going to tell us?" But for some reason, maybe my mom did know, or maybe she didn't know, but you could tell in her reaction, she was just shocked.
She was so surprised. You did a great job on ambushing her with that.
Yeah, it was just, and when I rewatch it, it just, it put such a huge smile on my face, even though Mia's not with us. It just is still such a happy memory, even now. I love watching those videos, and it just brings me back to just I hate to keep saying joy, but just a joyous time in our lives.
That is wonderful. So everything so far, you went to the doctor. I know that usually most moms usually go around 9 or 10, 11-ish weeks for that first appointment. Did you guys go fairly early because you were sort of seeing a fertility person, or was it just your regular
I
OBGYN?
actually wasn't seeing a fertility person. I had seen a fertility specialist once.
Okay.
Prior to going on my weight loss program. And she said, we could put you on the fertility medicine to trigger ovulation.
Mm-hmm.
She was very frank with me. And she said, but carrying a pregnancy at my weight at the time probably wouldn't be ideal. So me and Cody actually took a couple days, to discuss, what do we want to do? Do we want to hold off getting pregnant for another year or two while I go through this program, my surgery, and then I have to recover, and get the clear from the doctor.
Gotcha.
So,
so you did decide with the weight loss first, then
I had to put my health first, and make sure me and my body were in a position to carry a successful pregnancy, and all things considered, I did have a good pregnancy, a good healthy pregnancy.
Great. So, how did that first trimester go? Most people have morning sickness and other fun, crazy things.
I felt incredible. I felt like I was walking on air. Yeah, I can't describe it. Even if I did have sickness, I think I mentally would have just put it to the back of my mind because I was so happy and so excited to be pregnant. And I just took everything in stride, if I feel sick one day, that's just how it goes, So it really was just an easy first trimester, the first doctor appointment, because I had found out I was pregnant March 7th, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much the day COVID started for us up here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's when everything shut down. That's crazy.
It was very, very early on.
Yeah.
So luckily enough, Cody was able to come to all the appointments with me.
Oh,
which
good.
I'm very grateful for. And yeah, just seeing her for the first time, hearing the heartbeat for the first time was just surreal. To actually know that there's a human growing inside you that you've wanted for so long. It was just amazing, so.
That's wonderful. So all in all, that entire kind of your fertility, weight loss, kind of health journey was several years long before you guys actually got pregnant.
Oh, yeah, we started trying so we got married when I was 25. So, and I got pregnant when I'm so bad at 30.
Okay, yeah.
So, I know people struggle for many, many more years than we have, but obviously, everyone's experience is their own. And until you've experienced it yourself, you don't truly understand, how isolating it can be to try to get pregnant and it be unsuccessful and just be surrounded by people
Yeah.
who get pregnant so easily. And that's great for them. And I'm not wishing that it's not easy for anybody else. It's just when it's your own experience, it's a lot different.
Yeah, it is. It is. So it rocks your world, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It really does.
Okay, well, let's keep walking through the story. Then you are checking in on your appointments, and that everything is looking good. You are feeling great. You guys are just super happy. Do you guys do any getting prepped for baby, or go on a little honeymoon or baby moon, I guess, or anything like that?
Yeah. So me, I'm a very type A personality. So I wanted to find out, obviously, the sex of the baby. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know if it was a boy or a girl. We found out it was a girl, which Cody, I think, knew was going to happen. I had an intuition that it was a girl. So we were just so excited.
And how did you guys find out? Was that at the 20-week ultrasound, the body scan ultrasound, or was this like a genetic test or something?
Genetic test. Yeah, I opted to have the blood test done around, I think it was 10 to 12 weeks. I got that done.
Great.
Just for the genetic testing. And then we could also find out the sex at that time. So we opted to do that, which I have a girlfriend who has 3 children and she's never found out the sex for any one of them. And I love that idea, but I just,
You're like, for myself? Nope.
no, there's no way. I just can't do it. So we found out it was a girl, and we got her room all ready. We decorated her nursery. My dad, helped us paint the room for her, and we bought furniture. My mother-in-law bought our crib for us. My godmother bought our rocking chair for us. So our family had their touches, in our nursery. And I, of course, went crazy buying all the girly clothes and shoes. She had a better stocked closet than I ever had.
It's always what happens.
Yeah. And yeah, we were planning my baby shower. My mom and my sister and my best friend were planning my baby shower for me. We had the dates sent. We had invitations ready to go and sent out. It was just going swimmingly. I had a couple of days, of course, where I called the doctor, the clinic, and just said, "Oh, this is going on. Is this normal? Just I'm having a weird cramp, or I'm sweating profusely. Is this normal?" Just every little thing. And was always assured everything was fine. My checkups were always fine. I had my 12-week checkup, and then my 20-week ultrasound rolled around, the anatomy scan, and that fell on my birthday.
Oh,
so
fun.
It was just a perfect day, was celebrating my birthday by seeing my baby girl on the screen and just seeing her perfect little nose and her feet. And it was actually funny because the ultrasound tech got a really good still picture of the bottom of her foot.
Oh.
And I started cracking up, and I looked at Cody and said, "Oh my gosh, she has your feet." And the ultrasound tech kind of giggled and said, "Oh, do you have wide feet too?" Because her feet were just these perfect little, V-shaped, Fred Flintstone looking feet, which Cody has too. So
that's so cute.
Yeah, it was funny. So after the anatomy scan.
Oh, did everything look great on that? I mean,
everything looked perfect. So in my office, it was just, the abdominal ultrasound. I didn't get any sort of cervical check or anything like that, because up to that point, everything seemed to be, good. I wasn't having any issues. So after the ultrasound, we went out to dinner with my family to celebrate my birthday, and everything seemed fine after that. I went to the beach on July 4th, enjoyed a nice little beach day.
Mm-hmm.
And then on July 14th, on a Tuesday, I was at work, and I was in my favorite dress, my favorite maternity dress. And I went to the bathroom, and I had some spotting. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I had spotting the day before.
Yeah.
But it was very minimal. So I called my doctor, and they basically, went down the list of, have you done this? Have you done that? Just kind of maybe getting to the root of what could be causing the spotting.
Right.
So after discussing with them, it was determined that, it wasn't anything to be concerned about at that point, and to call them if the spotting persisted. So the spotting subsided that night. And then Tuesday, the next day, when I was at work, I went to the bathroom, and I had spotting again, which I thought was bizarre because I had gone, around 16 hours without spotting. So I thought it was weird that it had picked up again.
Yeah. And was it
That
heavier this time or?
It was a little heavier, but not to the point where I immediately thought, oh my gosh, something is wrong. I just
Right.
in my head thought, okay, maybe, maybe I overdid it walking up too many stairs or something.
Mhm.
It could be so many reasons. So I called the doctor again and they said, just for peace of mind, why don't you come in and we'll just do a check.
Perfect.
So I
And what,
vividly
can I interrupt? I apologize.
remember
What week were you around this time? Do you remember?
22 weeks, just about to be 23
Okay.
weeks. I would be 23 weeks the next day, that Wednesday.
Okay, great.
So I was 22 weeks. So I was driving to the doctor and I vividly remember the song Say It Ain't So by Weezer playing. And I was singing along because I love that song and thinking everything was just going to be fine. I didn't for a second think that anything was wrong. Pulled up to the doctor's office. I got changed into a gown and my doctor was examining me. She was doing a cervical check and I remember looking up at the ceiling and they have posters on the ceilings, because every woman who's gone to the gynecologist knows that laying down and you're just looking up at the ceiling, waiting for them to do what they're doing. And there was a poster with some pretty wildflowers on there. So I was just looking at that. And, we were laughing about whatever it is that you talk about when someone's down there.
Yeah, right.
And then she just got quiet and she came up to the head of the bed and, um, asked if we could call Cody. And I said, is everything okay? And she basically just said, we have to talk about something. And I just want Cody to hear it too. To be completely honest, I really don't remember much I don't even remember if I called Cody or if I had FaceTimed him. I don't remember what the conversation was. I don't remember getting dressed and leaving that exam room. But the next thing I remember is I'm in a wheelchair and I'm being wheeled over to the hospital because my doctor's office was adjoining to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So we were getting wheeled over, or I was getting wheeled over. And I remember just walking into a labor and delivery room and the nurse just kind of rubbed my shoulder and she told me to put a hospital gown on and to, just get comfortable in the bed. So I did that still at that point, not really understanding why I was there, because I really truly think I had blacked out for a little bit. So I was laying in the bed and before the doctor came in, I saw, under the fabric curtain by the door, I saw Cody's sneakers, so I knew he was there. And I don't really think he understood what was going on at that point either. So the doctor comes in and I just ask her, can you just tell me again what's going on? Because I don't understand what's happening to me and why I'm here. And she basically just explained that my cervix started dilating and I was a couple centimeters dilated at that point. And she could see my water bag when she was doing my exam. So she explained that it was possible that, I'd start labor at any moment, but she felt pretty confident that we could keep an eye on it overnight. And the next morning I would get what's called a cerclage, which is a cervical stitch to help keep the cervix closed and, prolong my pregnancy as long as possible. And I remember when she told me that, I remember having a feeling of hope, thinking, okay, everything's going to be fine. I'll get the cerclage. I'll go full term. Everything will be fine. And I vividly remember her saying, you need to get the idea of going full term. You can't think that that's what the end game is going to be. And she wasn't saying it in to be rude or to be cold. She was wanting to be realistic with my expectations because I think she knew I still didn't understand the severity of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question, Lindsay?
Sure.
So when she asked you originally to call Cody, what were you thinking? Were you starting to panic, or what was going through your mind?
I definitely went from feeling like everything is hunky dory to, whoa, why does she need me to call Cody? What's going on? Is there two babies in there now? Still not thinking this was even a possibility and not to kind of get off track here, but I think that's a common theme with lost parents when it happens to you for the first time. Unfortunately, people go through many, many losses. But before you experience a loss, I don't think you grasp the reality that this is a reality for every single person who gets pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knows that. I don't think anybody knows that. And that's not your doctor's fault or anything like that, because they obviously want to prepare you for possible outcomes. But when you're pregnant, nobody wants to hear that this is a possibility,
Yeah.
And I don't think you can ever fully prepare for it happening, even if you were to know that it was a possibility. So when she, told me to call Cody, it still wasn't even, a phantom of a reality in my head, because there was just no way that this was happening to me. There was no way that I was, about to lose my baby. It just wasn't even anything I fathomed.
Yeah. It's never on anybody's radar, I think. Just
Never.
and you think, I'm going to be the healthy pregnancy. Everything will be fine.
Exactly. Especially when you're just surrounded by people that have nothing but healthy pregnancies,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just not the reality.
When you got wheeled over then, so you called Cody and it sounds like you really did maybe either black out or were in a state of shock. When you guys talked to Cody, I mean, did he come and then she gave you the news of what was going on?
So I'm assuming that she kind of gave an overview of what was happening when Cody was on the phone, but
Mm-hmm.
I do remember that, the three of us talking about it. Cody came in and then she reiterated what was happening. And so then when she left the room again, I still remember not really being that worried.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was just self-preservation at that point. My mind was going into protection mode because it didn't want to deal with the reality. But I don't think Cody understood the severity of it either. And again, it's just because this isn't something we even knew was a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the night, I just took it easy. I was laying in the hospital bed. Cody had reached out to one of her friends who's a nurse, and he kind of said, you're in good hands. You're in where you need to be. We started reading about other families who have gone through this with the cerclage and have had successful pregnancies. So we definitely had hope. We absolutely had hope. And then I went to the bathroom and I had a lot of bleeding. It had increased significantly, and immediately just broke down, and the nurse came in, and the nurse was absolutely amazing and just, told me that it was okay. She would get the doctor in. And so the whole idea behind getting the cerclage is that they could only do it if my labor hadn't started. If I started to have contractions or if my water broke or anything like that, they obviously couldn't do the cerclage.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started bleeding heavily, they did another exam, and the water bag was right there.
Oh.
So my doctor explained that the cerclage is just too risky, because then they might accidentally break the water bag since it's right there, and then that might cause infection or a whole plethora of issues. So, and this whole time, every time the doctor came in to check my cervix, or, to check on me, just how I was doing, we got an ultrasound, an abdominal ultrasound, and Mia was doing great. Her heartbeat was strong and she was perfect. So that made it harder for me to grasp what is happening to me, because she's fine. She's perfect.
Right.
So it was just really difficult for me to, deal with the fact that it's me, that my body is failing her. So we went through the night. I started to have really painful contractions, and the doctor just explained that we would be meeting our daughter, that day. So the next morning, I, was going through the contractions, and the nurse and Cody were all trying to persuade me to get the epidural, and I just didn't want it. I just, in my head, which is so silly to think about in retrospect, but in my head, I was like, no, you know what? I deserve to be going through this pain because my body is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And obviously, I came to my senses at some point and listened to the nurses and the doc and Cody, and decided to get the epidural. And it definitely calmed me down a little bit since I wasn't in so much pain. And yeah, it was just a waiting game at that point. So the doctors had switched out at that point, because my practice has 6 doctors. I love every single one of them. So the doctors had switched at this point. And the new doctor, she came in and, she just kind of told us what was going to happen. And she was just really great. All the nurses were so great and told me it was time to push. They were looking at the contractions on the monitor and pushed for just a few minutes, and she was here. But unfortunately, she had passed before I delivered her. So she didn't have a heartbeat, and they placed her on me right after I delivered her. And I remember thinking, I cannot believe how much of a baby she is, because you see your baby on the ultrasound, on this gray and white pixelated ultrasound. And it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that, there's a human baby in your body. And so when they placed her on me, I just couldn't believe how real she was and how beautiful she was. She had the most beautiful little lips and all of her fingers and all of her toes. And she was just so delicate and perfect. So after she was placed on me, they all kind of let us have our time together. I wish I remember how long it was that I held her, but I really don't. It was just, it felt like an out-of-body experience,
Yeah.
Holding someone else's baby that wasn't alive. It was just really, really unreal. So,
Lindsay, up until that point when the doctors when you had started to bleed and you started to contract, did they tell you that, she's not going to live? Did they outright tell you that? And
so when I had the heavy bleeding and the doctor came in and did the final ultrasound, her heartbeat was slowing a lot.
Oh.
And it was because my, uterus was contracting. And when you have contraction, it puts the pressure on the baby. So they absolutely prepared us for the fact that, she would probably pass before I delivered her. And the day she was born, I was 23 weeks. And, I hate to say this, but the standard is that NICU hospitals will not take babies until they're 24 weeks.
Yeah.
So Cody and I had to have a really difficult decision, before I delivered her the night before when my contraction started. We had to ask ourselves, is this, if Mia is born, with a heartbeat? We were obviously told the risks of, what could happen if she was born with a heartbeat, and they took her to the NICU and did everything they could, what could possibly happen, hearing loss, blindness, physical defects, just long-term disabilities. And that was not a life that we wanted for our daughter. So we had decided, if she were to be born with a heartbeat, that we would just enjoy every second we could with her, holding her, and see where that took us. But she made the most selfless decision I could ever ask of my child. And she made that decision for us, And that's how I look at it. And that's how I've been able to, over time, kind of make peace with what happened. Is that I look at it as she made a decision for us so that we wouldn't have to. And I'll be grateful for her for the rest of my life for making that decision for me.
And then while you were laboring, did you so they usually have a contraction monitor as well as a heartbeat monitor for the baby. Did you guys have that on? Because I think that would kind of stress me out if you knew her heart rate was kind of slowing down.
I hate to say this, but I honestly don't remember. I really don't remember.
Yeah,
I just remember getting the ultrasounds every now and then when she was checking on her and hearing it that way. And then the last ultrasound is when she told us, or when we heard it, we heard that it was really, really slow.
Really? So you guys are able to hold her and spend time with her. Was it just you and Cody? Was anybody else able to come? Because you're in the middle of the pandemic, and I know that there were very strict visitor policies and such.
There was, yeah, it was rough not having, our family there with us. But to be honest, I don't know that I would have wanted anybody
Mm.
there with us. It was a really painful moment. And I really wouldn't have wanted to put that pain on our families, seeing how it affected them and how it still affects them, the loss of Mia. I can't imagine them being there and seeing me physically go through it. And
Yeah.
it's just really, really hard. And, it's traumatizing, to be honest. So I don't know that I would want to put anybody else through that.
When did you guys call your families and tell them what was happening? Was that when the first, kind of that first night you got checked in, or was it after the doctor's appointment?
Yeah, we pretty much kept everybody up to speed
Mm.
as soon as I was in the
Okay.
hospital.
So you're kind of making sure everybody was, um, you were kind of texting out your progression or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the time, my two best friends from back home in New Jersey, they were pregnant as well. So this was July and my due date was November. My one girlfriend, her due date was September, and then
Mm-hmm.
the other girl, her due date was October.
Oh,
So when I found out I was pregnant, it was so fun, us being pregnant together. So I was texting them and telling them as well what was going on. And, they were one of my first texts after everything had happened, just to tell them, I'm grateful for the journey that we've been going on together, but, mine was cut short. And, you know, me will always be, a best friend in spirit to their girls, their children. So, but yeah, for the most part, we pretty much told everybody as soon as it happened.
yeah.
We just wanted everyone to be aware of what was going on, mostly because I had been so open about my pregnancy up until that point. I was sharing all the good news and all the scans and everything with everybody.
That is that is so hard, especially when you're like, I have two friends that are pregnant and about the same time. That's difficult.
Yeah, yeah,
How big was Mia when she was born? Did they weigh her and kind of measure her?
yeah. She was a pound.
19 ounces. I think.
Yeah, 19 ounces. And
Tiny little girl.
she was very, very small and delicate. And yeah, I could hold her in the palm of my hand.
Oh,
Yeah, and then the hospital, took her over to a little bassinet and put a handmade satin gown on her with a little
oh,
hat.
really?
And, yeah, and they took some photos for us. So, which was really nice because obviously in the moment that's not something that you think to do.
Nope.
But I am so grateful that they did because those are photos that we have and that I look at every day. And, it's just nice to have something tangible that I can look at and remember her by.
Yeah. And did you guys tell me how you came up with her name? How did you decide on Mia? And was that something you guys talked about? I mean, told everybody, "Oh, this is Mia in my belly," or
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
or was it something that came when she was born? That's when you decided.
No, we actually had decided on Mia for maybe right around when I was pregnant. I feel like we've always talked about names, when we got married and decided to have kids. I feel like that's always a conversation couples have, oh,
Yeah.
these are the names that I like. We had a really hard time agreeing on names.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, but Mia was just, I don't even remember how it came about, but it was just, a name that came up and we thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
So
It's a really cute name.
thank you. Yeah, I really, really love it. She's a Mia, that's, and we told everybody her name and so that everybody could call her by her name. And that way, when I was talking to her, I could call her by her name. And yeah, it was nice.
So you guys were able to get those pictures, and were you guys just holding her? Did you guys do anything in particular to kind of, read stories, sing songs, anything that you wanted to do to kind of make memories with her? Or was that even on your like consciousness of needing to do that while she was with you?
I mean, looking back, there are so many things I wish I would have done with her, but in that moment, when you just are grappling with the fact that your child is not with you, I wanted to soak in every second I could with just holding her
Yeah.
and enjoying her. And at one point I think I just felt just disappointment in myself that I couldn't do what I needed to do. And I just felt like I had let her down, and that I wasn't deserving to have her with me. So in that moment when you're feeling all those feelings, it's hard for you to do the things that you would do if you were to have a living child, you know,
Yeah.
that was born and that you're cuddling with in the hospital and they're cooling and reaching for you. It's hard to think of doing the things that you would do in that scenario when it's the complete opposite. It's just such a hard and sad time.
Yeah. It is the worst. It's the worst. How long did you guys spend with Mia? And I guess maybe did your hospital have any sort of kind of time frames on how long you could have her
No,
in your
not
room?
not at all. Like, in fact, quite the opposite. When we told them, that we were ready to say goodbye, they really, really drilled into me, like, "Are you sure? There's no rush. We're not telling you that you have to, put her down." It's so they were really, really great about making sure that we took the time that we needed.
Good.
And I wish I remember how long we took,
Yeah.
but all I know is that in my heart, I know that I spent the time I needed to with her.
Good. Yeah, it's so that is a hard decision, like, of because you don't want to. Yeah, it's hard to watch and see your baby and not be able to. It was hard to see my son when he was his skin was getting so fragile and everything. It
Yeah,
just that there was kind of this toss up of how long do we keep him, and
right,
so
right.
yeah, it's a hard
Because
decision.
you wanna preserve the integrity of your child,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, completely. Up until that point, how were you feeling? You had just given birth to your child. How were you feeling? How did the birth go, actually?
The birth itself was fine, I felt fine right
Okay.
after physically. I wasn't really in a lot of pain. I did have a little tear, but at that point, the epidural was still,
Yeah.
active. But I actually remember once we were ready to leave and I was getting changed in the bathroom, I had put on just, stretchy pants and a t-shirt, and it was a somewhat fitted t-shirt.
Hmm.
And I remember leaving the bathroom and I just looked at Cody and we were shocked at, I didn't have a belly anymore. My pregnant belly was gone. So that was one of many realizations that, wow, this is real. Something so silly as just not having a belly anymore, that this is real, and we had to leave the hospital with a memory box instead of a child.
Yeah. It's so unfair. When you got admitted, I just want to make sure that I've got the events kind of in a row. So you guys got admitted that one evening to the hospital,
Mhm.
and you started contracting that evening, and then you gave birth to her at what time the next day?
9:52 on Wednesday, July 15th.
In the morning or in the evening?
In the morning.
In the
Yeah,
morning. Okay.
yeah, in the morning.
And then you spent the day with her and then gave her back, and then did you guys leave the hospital the same day or
We did, yeah, we just went home that day, and
We had to.
yeah.
yeah, I think at that I don't know if I don't wanna call it adrenaline because I don't think it's adrenaline. There's just something pumping through your body that just says, "Get out of this hospital."
Yeah.
Something so horrific just happened to you and, you know, you just can't be there anymore.
And her sister and her aunt and uncle were driving up from New Jersey basically the second they found out what the inevitable, Mia was. We were going to be leaving the hospital without Mia.
Yeah.
So in the hospital, it's just me and Linz, and, we're trying to, comfort each other. And I think we both wanted to get home because her family was there waiting for us.
Oh, good.
I think every child wants to be with their mother. You know what I'm saying? Like I think Linz just wanted to get home to be with her mother, to be with her sister, because that was what she needed more than being in the hospital. So I think they were going to let us go basically as soon as we were able.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that makes sense. Yeah, it's so traumatizing. I think you said I like the way you said that it was kind of like it felt like adrenaline. It's kind of a fight or flight, right? You are in this position where you're like, something terrible just kind of happened to us, and I am traumatized, and I need to get away from this place that has caused that is associated with this pain and
Right.
trauma. Yeah, because I've we've talked to enough people that are like, we got out of there as soon as we could, like get us out now. And
Right. I
after
think
they've
that's how we felt,
yeah, it's such a horrible, yeah, there's like this association with the hospital now of trauma. Like it's
Yeah,
terrible.
absolutely.
So you guys got out of, you got discharged. You had given Mia back to them. Did they? This is the thing that I was really annoyed with, is that we had I love social workers. I appreciate them, but the social worker came in and said, like, "Here's a packet of stuff that you need to figure out." Was there somebody that came in and talked to you about arrangements and et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera?
It wasn't a social worker. I don't think it was a representative from the local funeral home that
Oh,
had come in and, asked us, what would you like to do for me as final arrangements? And we opted to have her cremated. And the service that they offer through that funeral home for the hospital that I delivered at is that they do it free of charge, which was incredible
yeah.
because I cannot imagine being a parent who has just lost their child and being asked the question, you know, what is your plan for the final arrangements? And then thinking about how am I going to afford this $5,000 service or however much it is, depending on where you are. So we were really grateful that that was offered to us. But when she came in to talk to us about this, I just remember thinking, how is this my life? How is this happening? I just gave birth to my child and I'm being asked, how do I want to lay her to rest or to, you know, leave her at peace? How is this conversation that I even need to be having right now? So it was very surreal. And the people at the hospital that I delivered at is absolutely incredible. The staff there is amazing. They have specific programs for moms and parents who have lost their children. There's a memorial garden in the hospital, right outside the hospital. They have frequent ceremonies there. So they gave us a packet, on the groups, the Zoom groups that are available for grieving and grief support. They gave us a little keepsake box with, the photos that they had taken of her, a little stuffed animal, and yeah, basically just a binder of, resources and support. But aside from that, you just kind of get your discharge paperwork and you're told, call us if you need us. That's how it goes, when you lose a baby. And I think that's why it's so important that, you have family and resources outside of your medical team because that's who gets you through. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's important to have your checkups and your follow ups to make sure everything physically is okay. But your family and your friends are the ones who know you and are the ones who get you through. So I'm just really grateful that, like Cody said, we left the hospital and they were there waiting for us.
That's great. And I'm sure that they took care of you well after. That
Yeah.
is, yeah, family and friends are the ones that, yeah, just save you. That's the way, that's the exact right statement.
Yeah. Because I mean, Cody and I leaned on each other for a lot in those weeks and months after, even now. But you can only handle so much as one person. And we're grieving equally the same loss. So it's hard to take on the other person's grief when you're dealing with so much of it yourself.
Yeah. How long did your family stay with you after Mia was born?
So my family who came up to visit from New Jersey, they were here for several days.
Good.
But we're very lucky. Like Cody said, his family is
Mm,
all here. My parents live close, so we've never truly been alone. We've never felt like we didn't have support nearby.
great. Oh, that's good. That's so, so good. That support system is so important. So Mia was cremated. Were you kind of told when that was going to happen, and how were those arrangements? How did that look? And further, did you end up having some sort of memorial or service to kind of celebrate her life?
So they were very open with us and telling us this is the date and the time that you'll be cremated,
Oh,
and we
okay.
will we will call you before it happens. And they did. They followed up on that. They called me right as she was about to be cremated, which, I really appreciated because it was nice. I could just kind of say something to myself in the moment that I knew that was happening. And then Cody and I went to the funeral home to go pick up her ashes, and we were just waiting, and we were escorted into her room. They had her in a little private room, so it was nice that they didn't just, bring her urn out to the lobby.
Yeah.
It was nice that they had a little private area for us, and I just remember walking in and seeing the urn and just losing it, and because her urn was so tiny. It is so tiny. It's the size of an egg. It's
Oh,
just yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful urn, but I just remember I just could not wrap my head around how small it was. And, you know, just kind of adds insult to injury. You already are going through this loss, and now you're carrying out a little egg-sized urn with your child's ashes in it. And we brought her home, and we had a little area that we wanted to put her urn in. We didn't have a ceremony or anything like that. And it's just one of those things where you look back and you wish you would have done something a little differently. But I think when we brought her home, we just had moments to ourselves where we talked to her, and I think we felt at peace with how we, have her memorialized there. And we do things now. We've done things since her death to memorialize her and to think about her. And so I don't think not having a ceremony is, I do, on one hand, maybe regret not doing it. But on the other hand, I think what we do to commemorate her now is, just as important.
kind of to wrap up you obviously they kind of diagnosed that you had an incompetent cervix. Is that
Right.
something that you talked to your doctor about in at your follow-up? It just feels like that's going to be a road you're going to have to cross. A bridge you're going to have to cross again when you guys are, if and when you guys plan on getting pregnant again. How was that addressed?
Yeah, exactly. So we actually were able to get pregnant again after Mia.
Oh,
And yeah, and we have a son who was born this past July.
oh,
And he's here because of a cerclage and because I was seen by high risk doctors, and I had a maternal fetal medicine doctor who literally saved my son's life. And leading up to that, we spoke with my doctor, and um, well, right after Mia had passed, we did talk to my doctor about what had happened, and were referred out to this maternal fetal medicine specialist to discuss, options for future pregnancies. And they gave me the run of the mill. There's no reason for this to happen. There's no medical, reason that this happens. It just happens. It's luck of the draw, pretty much. And it's such an offensive term, incompetent cervix.
yeah.
It really just drills it in you that your body has failed and that you are the reason. So that was difficult to hear that there was, a diagnosed reason why this pregnancy had failed. But then I was hopeful that there was an option for future pregnancies because even though the passing of Mia was traumatic and is devastating, we still wanted more children. We have always wanted a big family. So after meeting with the maternal fetal medicine doctor, and he gave me a plan and said, you'll get the cerclage at 12 weeks, 12, 13 weeks, and, you'll have regular checkups. And that's what we did. We got pregnant a couple months after Mia had passed, and we got the cerclage at 13 weeks and got checkups every 2 weeks. And it was a perfect pregnancy. And we were, very, very lucky that we were able to welcome our son this past July. And he was healthy and perfect, and everything went great.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That is, yes, when you say, gosh, it makes you feel the word incompetent cervix, the incompetent makes you feel like, oh, yeah, another reason for
Right.
to feel like, oh, it was my body's fault that
Exactly.
happened. And
Yeah.
I do love the fact that you brought up the fact that there are medical interventions that can be done, and the fact that
Absolutely. Yeah.
unfortunately found out the way you did, but you could prevent that in the future for your son.
Yeah. And I did ask the question at one of my checkups, why isn't it standard to do a cervical check? And I know that
Oh
people
yeah.
have very, varying opinions on doing cervical
Hmm.
checks, but a cervical check at my anatomy scan could have made the difference between our daughter not being here and her being alive
Oh
today. So, it's one of those questions that you'll drive yourself nuts asking,
yeah.
well, what if, what if,
Yep.
what if? So you just have to come to peace with the fact that what happened happened, and all you can do is what you can do moving forward. Take these precautions and take advantage of the medical interventions that are available and just hope for the best.
Lindsay, thank you so much for talking about Mia, telling about her life. Would you like to share any last things about Mia that you remember, that you want to have on this, that you want to tell everybody about her?
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for having me and letting me tell my story. I love talking about Mia. I will tell her story to anybody who blinks at me. So I love talking about her. Just what I loved so much about Mia is just she gave me a new outlook on life. She really did. When I found out I was pregnant with her, I just was overcome with so much happiness and so much joy that I honestly had never felt before in my life. To think that you can love somebody else the way that I loved Mia, it's just a really, really special kind of love that you truly don't understand unless it happens to you. And I'm just so grateful to her for giving me that love and showing me that I'm capable of loving someone else in that capacity. You love your family members, you love your friends, you love your spouse, but there's truly nothing like loving your child. I'm just so grateful for her that she gave me that opportunity, and I think of her every single day. I talk to her every single day. I look at her pictures every single day. We talk to our son about her every day. Every time I see the larkspur flower, I think of her. Like I said, I'm just really grateful for her. She's opened my eyes up to advocacy for incompetent cervix and just people who are going through loss. And she's given me motivation to do things that I wouldn't have normally done, work with foundations to get fundraisers established and commemorate her in every way I possibly can because she deserves that. And that's how I remember her. I'll always remember her.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was beautiful. And thank you again for sharing her story.
Thank you for hearing it.